Why? My parents insulted the Christmas vacation I gifted them, said I still owed them, and called my sister the one holding us together. Why? My aunt recorded the whole thing. I let them reach the airport, canceled every reservation, and watched their bills, phones. Why? And social standing fall apart. Hey everyone, my family used me like a bank, until I finally said no and cut them off. Why? But they weren't done causing damage before everything blew up. Here is exactly how the nightmare started. My name is Aiden. I am 31. Why? Work in operations management, and live alone in a quiet apartment that I actually like coming home to. Why? People at work know me as the guy who doesn't sugarcoat anything. My family, on the other hand, used to call that attitude. Why? We had a long break from each other, years actually, until they reached out again. I wasn't expecting anything from them. Why? And I sure didn't think I owed them some emotional comeback tour. They reached out in that way people do around the holidays. Why? Like the calendar flips and suddenly they remember you exist. Mom framed it as Christmas season. Why? Like reconciliation was a decoration you hang up for company. Why? The first dinner after reconnecting felt like stepping into an old room that hadn't been cleaned, just rearranged. My father, Martin. Why? Opened with a request to be reasonable. That was his classic warm, up before explaining why he was right about something I hadn't even said yet. Why? He was still the same strict, self-appointed judge of the universe. He liked playing devil's advocate, except he never played. Why? He just picked the side that wasn't mine. My mother, Maria, came in with a hug that felt like a photo pose. Why? She launched straight into how good it is for people to see family sticking together. She didn't have to say the quiet part. Christmas photos, calls, why? And posts about family unity were brought to you by holiday lighting and selective memory. Cecilia, my younger sister, didn't even bother pretending. Why? She gave me a quick glance, then immediately asked if I still had the nice streaming account login I used to use. No hi, no how have you been? Why? I didn't expect anything from her anyway. She had always been allergic to the word responsibility. Attention, though, she inhaled that like oxygen. Why? By the end of dinner, they had somehow positioned me as the missing puzzle piece in their perfect family display. I played along out of convenience. Why? Not sentiment. It is easier to nod than start a war with three people who think volume equals logic. The money issue started small. Why? Martin mentioned their electric bill jumped suddenly, which was funny considering Maria had the house lit up like an airport runway. Why? Maria followed with a comment about things stabilizing after the holidays. They said it like they were reporting the weather. Why? I covered it because I didn't feel like hearing the speeches. They thanked me the way people thank the weather. Why? Briefly, and like it would have happened anyway. The more I covered, the smaller they described it to everyone else. Maria even had a phrase for it. Why, calling it the Christmas spirit. It was as if my bank account was supposed to glow on command. Then came the mortgage hiccup. Why? Which was apparently unrelated to the electric jump, the car trouble, or the broken washing machine. I transferred money again. Why? Maria sent me a long message about how proud she was to see me finally stepping into a responsible family role. Right. Why? Because nothing screams responsibility like being treated like a walking debit card. Martin would add his little notes. Why? Saying I was always the strong-willed one. He called this a good way to balance things out. Why? Balance was an interesting word choice for a man who never lifted anything heavier than an opinion. I just deleted the texts. Why? Cecilia did not even bother dressing hers up with fake praise. She would message me something blunt, saying her card declined again and asking if I could fix it. No please found anywhere in the text. There was no context given. Why? Just the expectation that the world bends around her needs. I covered her phone plan, her subscriptions. Why? And even a few random charges she shrugged off as urgent. I did not bother digging into what urgent actually meant. The more I paid, why? The less they asked. Literally, they stopped phrasing things as requests and started phrasing them as updates. The gas bill is due Friday. Why? Your sister's phone will suspend tonight. The HOA fee was higher this month. Not a single question mark was in sight on my phone screen. Why? They treated my finances like a public utility that required maintenance reports. It was efficient, cold. Why? And entirely devoid of the gratitude they had promised earlier. Natalie, my aunt, caught on to the pattern before I admitted it to myself. Why? She pulled me aside one afternoon when I visited her small condo. She has always been the calm one. Why? The only person in the family who does not use emotion as a weapon. Aiden, she said softly, pouring 2 mugs of black coffee. Why? They are leaning on you too hard and too fast. Don't let them drag you into old habits. Her eyes held genuine worry. Why? I laughed it off with a sarcastic comment about how I was not 16 anymore. But her expression did not change. Why? It was the same look she used to give me when she knew I was pretending everything was fine. I should have listened to her right then. But keeping the peace was easier at the time. Paying a bill took 10 seconds. Why? Arguing with 3 people who think I was born indebted to them could take hours. So, I chose silence. And they took my silence as consent. Why? Looking back, that was the moment the trap shut. Not because they tricked me, but because I let them. Not out of weakness, but out of convenience. Law. Why? And convenience has a way of turning into obligation before you realize the floor has been moving under you the whole time. I didn't know it yet. Why? But I was funding my own downfall, one transfer at a time. Booking a Europe trip for my family sounded simple enough when it was just an idea. Why? I picked December on purpose. Christmas markets, lights, cold air. The kind of trip that practically sells itself. Why? I thought the holiday setting might soften them. It didn't. It just gave them more props to fight over. The second the itinerary hit the group chat, why? It turned into a circus. Maria called within minutes. Her tone was not grateful, it was critical. Aiden, sweetie, this hotel. She started. It is nice, but it is not the one people usually talk about. I asked who she meant by people. Translation. Why? Her friends and cousins who judge everything like it is a sport. It has 5 stars. I said, staring at the confirmation screen. Why? You will survive. She sighed loudly. It is not about surviving. It is about presentation. Do you understand? People take photos in the lobby. Why? The tree has to look expensive. Then Martin called to add his expertise. Aiden, I checked the flights. Why? Why did you pick these? Because they are good flights. I answered, already tired. He made that thinking noise he uses before lecturing. Why? You are spending too much. It is irresponsible. Money doesn't fix everything. I am paying for it. I reminded him.
Why?
That is exactly why I am concerned. You are impulsive. Always have been. Because planning a trip for months is impulsive now. Why? Cecilia joined the show by dropping a message in the chat. I upgraded my seat. Business class. Don't get weird about it. I called her immediately. Why? You upgraded without asking me. She laughed, the sound tinny through the receiver. You are paying, Aiden. What is the difference? I need space. Why? I am the social one. If someone films me looking tired, that is not good. You are flying overseas. I snapped. Why? No one knows you. You never know, she said, voice dripping with attitude. Don't be cheap. Throughout the week. Why? They found new things to complain about daily. Maria sent me hotels she preferred, one's triple the price. Why? Martin insisted the hotel gym lacked proper equipment. Cecilia complained her room wasn't big enough to get ready in. Why? I kept explaining the same thing. It is booked. It is done. We are going to survive without marble flooring and a full powerlifting setup. Why? Maria naturally told half the family about the trip before I could even confirm the transfers. Why? Aidan is finally taking responsibility. She bragged to an aunt on speakerphone. Not doing something nice, not being generous. Responsibility. Lie, like I was catching up on unpaid debt. She framed the vacation as my penance for the years of silence. She twisted my gift into an admission of guilt. Why? It was impressive how quickly she rewrote history to suit her needs. Cecilia added her usual self-praise. Why? Telling relatives she deserved the best seat, because she is the glue holding us together. Why? I convinced him to do this. I heard her say in a voice note to her friend. A reputation for what? No one knows. Probably not even her. Why? But the narrative was set. I was the wallet, and they were the architects of our family joy. I was booking a vacation. Why? But they were preparing for a coronation. The week before departure felt less like vacation prep and more like a hostage negotiation. Why? My phone buzzed constantly with demands disguised as questions.
Why?
Why? Maria needed a specific car service because she heard the standard taxis smelled like old cigarettes. Why? Martin sent links to restaurants that required reservations 6 months in advance, asking why I hadn't secured a table yet. Why? I spent my lunch breaks calling concierges and explaining that no, the Prime Minister would not be joining us. Why? Cecilia was worse because her requests were vague but mandatory. She needed access to good lighting at all times. Why? Whatever that meant for a hotel booking. She texted me at midnight asking if the local outlets would fry her hair straightener. Why? When I sent her a link to a voltage converter, she replied with a thumbs down emoji. She expected me to buy it, pack it. Why? And present it to her upon arrival. I added it to the cart. Amidst the barrage of links and complaints, a different notification popped up. Why? It was Natalie. They are acting odd. You okay? She texted. It was the first time anyone had asked about my state of mind in weeks. Why? I stared at the screen, feeling a strange tightness in my chest. I am fine, I wrote back, lying through my thumbs. If they get too annoying, why? I'll pretend I lost my passport. She sent a laughing emoji, but the worry remained. Her follow-up text came through a moment later. Why? Buzzing against my palm. Just be careful, Aiden. They are winding themselves up. I didn't respond to that part because I knew she was right. Why? The energy in the group chat was frantic, a mix of greed and anxiety. Lie. Why? They were terrified that something would go wrong and ruin the image they were crafting. Lie. I was just the mechanic meant to keep the engine running while they posed on the hood. That night, I did something I hadn't planned on. Why? I opened a folder on my laptop and started dragging files into it. Confirmations, receipts, text threads, and upgrade charges. Why? I took screenshots of Cecilia's demands and Martin's insults about my budgeting skills. It wasn't because I planned to argue with them later. Why? It was an instinct, like a squirrel burying nuts before a freeze. Something deep down told me that the truth would get twisted eventually. Why? It always did. 2 days out, I stopped by their house to drop off luggage tags. The living room looked like a fashion shoot gone wrong. Why? Open suitcases covered the floor, spilling silk and designer labels I knew they couldn't afford. Why? Maria was shouting about shoes while Martin paced the hallway, barking about traffic patterns. Why? Make sure you print the boarding passes. He told me without looking up. I don't trust the apps. I nodded. Why? Feeling invisible in the center of their chaos. Cecilia walked in, holding a new coat. Tell Aunt Clara I paid for this. She whispered to me, eyes darting toward the kitchen where Maria was on the phone. Mom thinks I am saving money. I looked at her, then at the coat. Why? It was another lie in a house built on them. Sure, I said, adding a mental note to the ledger in my head. I walked out to my car. Why? Unaware that the real cost was coming due. The morning of the trip, their driveway looked like a staging ground for a military invasion. Why? Maria was yelling about her shoes, while Martin hovered behind me like a nervous supervisor. Why? Don't tilt the suitcase. He snapped as I lifted a heavy bag into the trunk. Why? The wheels will get damaged. I reminded him it was a suitcase built for international travel, but he just grunted. Just do it properly. Lie, Aiden. I realized then that to him, my help was just unskilled labor. Cecilia strutted out wearing oversized sunglasses despite the overcast sky. Why? Checking her reflection in the car window. Does my outfit match the airport vibe? She asked no one in particular. I slammed the trunk shut. Why? Sealing away their luggage and their demands. When Maria asked why I wasn't driving them, I lied smoothly. Why? I need to swing by the office to print a security clearance. It wasn't true. Why? But I needed 30 minutes of silence before facing the long international flight. Natalie caught my eye before getting into the driver's seat. Why? Her expression tight with unspoken warnings. Text me when you leave, she whispered, squeezing my arm hard. As they pulled out of the driveway. Why? I could already see Martin gesturing angrily at the dashboard GPS. I stood there for a long minute. Why? Just breathing in the cold December air and enjoying the sudden, heavy silence. It felt like the calm before a storm. Why? But I had no idea the storm was digital. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed on the passenger seat of my own car. Why? A video notification from Natalie lit up the screen. There was no caption, just a file size large enough to be a mistake. Why? I pulled over into a gas station parking lot to check it, assuming she had dialed a recording. Law. Why? The video started with shaky footage of the car floor mats and the sound of the engine. But then Martin's voice cut through the static loud and clear. Why? I swear that boy thinks he runs the world because he pays a few bills. Martin said, sounding completely relaxed. Why? Aidan has always been controlling. He likes having power over us. It makes him feel big. My jaw tightened as I watched the screen. Why? Maria jumped in immediately, her tone dismissive. Please. He barely gives us anything. And when he does, he acts like we should bow down. Why? You would think covering a couple of utilities makes him a hero. The camera shifted slightly. Why? Catching Cecilia's profile as she adjusted her sunglasses. She let out a small, cruel laugh. Honestly, Law, why? I don't know why he acts like the backbone of this family, she said, checking her nails. I am the one everyone actually likes. Why? I am the one who shows up. Martin grunted in agreement. Exactly. Cecilia holds us together. Why? Aiden just throws money around and expects applause. It was a complete rewriting of reality, spoken with absolute conviction. Why? The clip ended with a sudden flash of Natalie's face, pale and horrified, whispering, I am so sorry. Before the recording cut. Why? She must have realized the upload happened automatically. I sat in the idling car, staring at a blank screen. It wasn't rage that washed over me. Why? It was a cold, clean clarity. They didn't just use me, they actively despised me for it. I put the car in gear. Why? But I wasn't driving to the airport anymore. I drove back to my apartment with a strange calmness, bypassing the airport entirely. Why? Entering my home felt different this time. It wasn't just a refuge anymore, but a command center. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop. Why? And the screen glowed with the itinerary I had spent weeks perfecting. The Manage Booking tab was staring right at me, mocking my effort. Why? I didn't hesitate or tremble. I clicked the button with the same emotionless efficiency they used when demanding I pay their bills. Why? The cancellation bar loaded slowly. I worked through the list methodically, like a surgeon cutting out necrotic tissue to save the patient. Why? Flights canceled. Hotel suites canceled. The private airport transfer canceled. I had booked everything refundable because, deep down, why? I never truly trusted them to behave themselves. The portals didn't refund the money instantly to my bank. Obviously. Why? But the confirmations hit my inbox immediately. Why? Reservation voided. Ticket canceled. I leaned back in my ergonomic chair and checked the numbers twice. Why? The screen confirmed it in black and white. The trip was dead. I placed my phone face down on the desk and waited for the inevitable explosion. Why? It took exactly 20 minutes for the digital silence to break. The first message came from Natalie, just as I expected. We are here. Why? Something is wrong with the tickets at the kiosk. It says invalid. I replied instantly to her private number to keep her safe. Nothing is wrong. Why? I canceled everything. I will explain later. Step away from them. There was a long pause, then she wrote back. I figured. Why? I am going to the restroom. Not a minute later, my phone lit up like a slot machine hitting a jackpot. Maria was first, naturally. Aiden, why? What is going on? They can't find our reservation number. Then another followed. Fix this now. Why? People are staring at us. I could practically hear her voice shrill with embarrassment, echoing through the busy terminal. Why? She wasn't worried about the trip or my safety. She was worried about the audience watching her fail. She didn't ask if I was okay. Why? She just demanded I repair the illusion immediately. Martin's texts arrived next, short and aggressive, lacking any punctuation. Why? I am at the counter. They say the cardholder canceled the flight. Why? You better call them and fix your mistake immediately. He must have been barking at the poor airline staff. Why? Probably tapping his credit card on the desk like a judge's gavel. Answer me, Adon. Why? This is unacceptable behavior. He still thought he was the ultimate authority figure. He still thought he could lecture me into submission. Why? I just opened the video file and watched it again to stay angry. Cecilia didn't text, she called me repeatedly. I let it ring out every time.
Why?
Then came the all-caps messages. AREOU-KDING me, RHERISMYUPGRAD. She followed up with a voice note that I made the mistake of playing. Why? Aiden, I literally posted that I was traveling today. Do you know how stupid I look? Fix it. She wasn't crying over family bonding. Why? She was crying over content. Her business class selfie was gone, and that was the only tragedy she could comprehend in that moment. Why? I decided to end the speculation and the noise. I didn't send a long paragraph. I didn't send an explanation. Why? I just forwarded the video file to the group chat. I heard everything. I typed below it. Why? Enjoy the drive home. The read receipts appeared instantly on the screen. 1, 2, 3. The barrage of text messages stopped cold. Why? It was the first time in years they had been rendered speechless. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise, filled with the sudden, why, crushing weight of consequences. But the silence didn't last long. The gaslighting began almost immediately. Maria texted first, "Why?" Her tone shifted to frantic sweetness. "Aiden, honey, that was just a joke. You know how your father gets." Martin followed up with, "Why? You are overreacting. We were blowing off steam. Don't punish the family for a misunderstanding." Cecilia added, "Why? You are ruining Christmas because you can't take a joke. Pathetic." They weren't sorry they said it. They were only sorry I had heard it. Why? They were scrambling to save the perks, not the relationship. I ignored them all and switched back to Natalie's chat. Why? She was hiding in the airport Starbucks, watching the meltdown from a safe distance. They are screaming at each other. She wrote. Why? Martin is blaming Maria for the video. I quickly opened a travel site and booked a single ticket. A nice resort, warm weather. Why? Domestic but far away. Check your email. I told her. Go to gate 42. You are going to Florida. Enjoy the week alone. Why? You earned it. She sent back a crying face emoji. Natalie sent a heart, and I knew she was safe. As for the others, their texts were piling up. Why? Oscillating between begging and cursing. I didn't block them yet. I needed them to know I was seeing their messages and choosing not to care. Why? I closed my laptop with a soft click. The Europe trip was gone. The money was safe. And as I sat in the dim light of my office, why? I realized the real cancellation hadn't been the flights. It was the subscription to their abuse. They returned from the airport in a regular taxi. Why? An indignity that surely stung as much as the lost trip. When they walked through the door, the messages shifted tactics entirely. Why? The anger evaporated, replaced by a terrifying, coordinated sweetness. Maria sent a text claiming they were just stressed. Why? Martin left a voicemail sounding calm, asking to talk things through. It was a strategy meeting disguised as an apology. They weren't sorry. In law. Why? They were just recalibrating their pitch to get the money flowing again. They thought if they pressed the right buttons, I would simply reboot. Why? I didn't reboot. I shut down. I navigated to the utility portals where accounts sat in my name to ensure lights stayed on when Martin forgot to pay. Why? It was time to correct that oversight. I clicked through the disconnect process for electricity, water, and gas. Why? Each confirmation screen felt like a heavy chain falling off my chest. I wasn't leaving them in danger. I was leaving them to their own devices. Why? I scheduled the shutoffs for immediately. The digital infrastructure of their lives was finally dissolving under my fingertips, one click at a time. Why? Next came the luxuries they considered rights. I logged into the mobile plan. I couldn't cancel their lines easily. Why? But I could suspend the service by removing my card and blocking autopay. Cecilia's data plan was the first to go. Why? She was probably upstairs right now. Why? Trying to livestream a tearful confession about the airline mix. Up. I imagined the moment the loading circle stopped spinning and the no connection icon appeared. Why? Then I hit the streaming services. Every password they had leached off me was changed. The silence in that house was about to get very real. Why? The physical consequences hit faster than I expected. Natalie texted me from her gate saying Martin was calling her. Why? Screaming that the power had surged and died. He thought it was a fuse. He had no idea the grid had just evicted him. I didn't answer. Why? I just pictured the scene. The Christmas tree lights dying in the living room. The refrigerator humming to a halt. Why? The sudden darkness falling over the hallway where Maria liked to pose for photos. They were sitting in a house they couldn't afford to run. Why? Staring at walls they didn't really own. The humiliation deepened when the water stopped flowing. A neighbor, Mr. Henderson, Y, posted a status update asking if anyone else on the block had lost pressure. Y. A comment underneath mentioned seeing Maria in the backyard with a garden hose connected to the Henderson spigot. Y. She was stealing water in her designer coat. The image was pathetic and perfect. The facade wasn't just cracking, it was shattering in public view. Y. They had spent years curating an image of wealth, and now they were begging for basic resources like pioneers in a suburban desert. Y. I decided it was time for the final communication. I didn't want a conversation, I wanted a closing statement. Law Y. I opened a spreadsheet I kept updated for taxes. It listed every single transfer, bill payment, and gift from the last 3 years. Y. The total at the bottom was staggering, enough to buy a small house. I took a screenshot of the final sum and attached it to a group text. Y. I added the video clip of them mocking me one last time. Here is the cost of your disrespect. I typed. I watched the typing bubbles appear. Y. They were scrambling to explain, to deny, to beg. I didn't let them finish. I pasted the message I had drafted hours ago. The bank is closed. Y. Do not contact me again. If you show up at my apartment, I will call the police. It was harsh, cold, and absolutely necessary. I hit send. Y. The text became a digital wall slamming down between my future and their past. I felt a phantom vibration in my hand. Y. The ghost of their demands fading away. Then came the final step. I tapped Martin's name. Block contact. I tapped Maria's name. Block contact. Y. I tapped Cecilia's name. Block contact. With every press of the screen, the silence in my apartment grew deeper and richer. Y. It wasn't the empty silence of loneliness. It was the peaceful silence of safety. I blocked their email addresses next. Y. Then I restricted their profiles on social media. I systematically erased their ability to reach me. They were screaming into a void now. Y. The cord wasn't just cut, it was cauterized. I walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere across town, Y. A house was dark and cold, filled with 3 people finally facing the consequences of their arrogance. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt light. Y. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I had thrown the shoes away. I poured myself a glass of water. Y. Sat on my couch and listened to the hum of my own refrigerator. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Y. The first month felt like phantom limb syndrome. I kept reaching for my phone, expecting a crisis text about a declined card or a broken heater. Y. But the screen stayed dark. I started going to the gym again, cooking meals that took longer than 10 minutes. Y. And actually reading books instead of just buying them. The silence in the apartment wasn't empty anymore. It was heavy with possibility. Y. I realized how much mental bandwidth I had wasted anticipating their disasters. Freedom, it turns out, is just the absence of other people's emergencies. Natalie came over a few weeks after she got back from Florida. She looked tan and rested. Y. A stark contrast to the news she brought. They are selling things, she told me quietly, stirring her tea. Furniture, the espresso machine. Y. Even some of Cecilia's bags. I nodded, feeling a strange detachment. It sounded like a story about strangers. They are downsizing? She added. Y. The house is on the market. It was the inevitable collapse of a kingdom built on credit. The reality check had finally bounced. Y. The internal rot was worse than the financial one. Natalie explained that they had turned on each other the moment the money dried up. Y. Martin blamed Maria for the video. Maria blamed Cecilia for the demands. And Cecilia blamed everyone for ruining her brand. Why? They couldn't agree on a lie, so the truth leaked out. They look exhausted, Natalie said, placing her cup down. Why? They are still waiting for you to cave. They would be waiting a very long time. I reached into my drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. Why? It wasn't an invoice or a legal letter. This is for you, I said, sliding it across the counter. Natalie opened it slowly. Why? Her hands trembling as she pulled out the itinerary. It was the Europe trip, rebooked for one, with open dates and a generous spending allowance. Why? I told the hotel you like quiet rooms, I said. No photo ops required. It was the gift I had wanted to give all along. She stared at the tickets. Why? Then at me, eyes filling with tears. Aiden, you didn't have to, she whispered. I know, I replied. That is why I did it. She hugged me then. Why? A real hug that didn't come with a price tag attached. It was the first time in years I felt seen, not as a resource, but as a person. Why? I realized then that I hadn't lost my family. I had just trimmed away the dead weight to save the roots. Natalie left an hour later. Why? Promising to send photos of the actual scenery, not herself. I locked the door and stood in the center of my living room. Why? The silence washed over me again, but it didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt like ownership. I had paid my dues, settled my debts. Why? And closed the account. My phone sat on the table, dark and quiet, finally just a tool instead of a leash. My life belonged to me again. Why? And the price was absolutely worth it.